back to Total Disclosure. My name's Ty, and I'm your host. Oh my God, I am tripping over my words. I'm so excited. Uh, I want to tell you a quick story. Before we get into this, guys, make sure to like, share, subscribe. It all helps the show. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, which our analytics say that 80% of you are, plus Spotify, another 7% or something like that. So if you guys are on those platforms, make sure to leave a rating and a review. It really helps the show get noticed by a broader audience. And that just helps us. Keep the show getting better and allowing us to invest into projects such as the project I'm doing with the man that we're talking to today. Someone I've looked up to even before he knew who I was. I've known who he was. His story is a staple of the UFO history. The the sheer raw emotion and all the things that encompass this case. We have missing time, abduction. We have a spherical craft that had gaseous, you know, or not pulsating. I'll let him describe it, but no hard edges, hovering over a military base that housed nuclear weapons. So not only, we're just checking all the boxes with this case, right? All of them, every single one. Then we have a missing person with Michael Johnson. And then we have a government cover up. And then we have, so on and so forth. It's just a story that is undertold, undervalued, and it remains, in my mind, one of the most credible cases that there is in UFO lore. Without further ado, I want to tell you that story. I was on my vacation filming my documentary, Catalina Island, a UFO journey. And halfway through, I got a call. I looked down at my phone. Mario Woods is calling. And I almost shit myself because this is a guy I looked up to for how long I have no idea. But I had been following him for as long as I can remember. I don't quite know exactly when he came out with this story, but I know it was quite some time. When he called, I dropped everything, and I was on vacation, just about to head out, and I told Marlena, like, no, I'm about to have an hour conversation with this guy because this is all that matters to me right now. And without further ado, the guest of honor today, Mario Woods. Sorry for my language. I'm so excited. I might edit that part out.
It's okay, man.
I,
How are you,
it's an
Tyler?
absolute honor, my friend.
Yeah,
Um, I think we're friends now. I think we can
yeah,
call each other
yeah,
friends.
yeah.
We've been conversating for quite some time now.
Mhm.
And listen, the first thing I gotta ask is, after all these years, how do you still look like someone who could kick anyone's ass?
I don't know, man.
You
Genes,
do the
I guess.
karate thing.
Genes. My son's a whole lot larger than I am. It's and my daughter's quite beautiful too. But I don't know. I really don't.
How old are your children?
Uh, my son's 27 and my daughter's 34.
Yeah, yeah, they're right around. So I could
Mhm.
be, I'm 29. I could be your kid.
Yeah,
Look at that.
sure.
Look at that. Look at that. I listen again from the bottom of my heart. You know, Total disclosure, our podcast. Um, when we talk to military veterans, there's a difference to the atmosphere. No pun intended, by the way. Uh, I have so much respect for people like you that
Thank you.
dedicate their lives to protecting this country and to protecting each and every citizen. And you know that's the good ones, the bad ones, the in between ones. You protect, you dedicate your life, and you would give your life for the
Oh, yeah.
protection of the United States assets and people.
Hmm.
When this happened, I mean, I want you to walk me through that day, but when this all happened and all of a sudden you were kind of pushed back up against the wall by the same people you were, you know, sworn to protect, and how did that make you feel?
Well, to clarify that, um, military pushback is a strange thing. You know,
Yeah,
once you take the oath never goes away. Even if you exit the service per se, your oath is still as a protector. You know,
of
people
course.
over people that don't even know.
Right.
You know, you walk with people every day down a sidewalk, but little do they know there's a guy there that would probably put his own life in jeopardy for your safety, and
Without a
it
hestation.
just never goes away. But as you in your question, you said pushed up against the wall. Well, you're just in a military chain of command. Once you are told, for one, that you can't speak about something, but let alone sign, a written Air Force form, a document stating that you will not divulge, give, or entertain anyone's questioning concerning
Yeah.
a particular matter, whatever it may be, whether it was something about a document, a nuclear weapon, or a UFO in this case. But it doesn't matter what it is, but you take an oath not to divulge what was discussed.
Now,
And that holds with you all your life. I mean, it holds with you as long as it's supposed to, and the entire time that I had clearances, whether it was DOD or US DOE, I never divulged anything of that, even though I was asked questions concerning it. They ended around everything but the subject matter, especially in US DOE, because that's investigations there are done by the Office of Personnel Management out of DC.
right.
And each area office, like Pinellas area office or Oak Ridge, Tennessee, or what you had out west, Los Alamos, and all those places, that they each have an area office, but they
Right.
all report to the main office in DC.
Now, so can you introduce yourself for our audience? I did a little quick promo on your story, but what can you tell me from the start, why you joined the military and why you took the career path that you did?
Hmm. It's really kind of, one way it's sad, the other way it's kind of funny. But our father, he was a merchant seaman, as the chief engineer with Texaco, and he was
Okay.
taken in a car accident in August 26th,
Ah,
1973. It was
I'm
my
so
first day of my senior high school year at Chamberlain High School
I'm so
in
sorry.
Tampa, and I just turned 17 years old. Is that right? Yeah, just turned 17. And anyway, I'd always sailed. I'd gone to sea with my dad. I worked for a shipping company right there in the local Tampa Bay area
Yeah.
during the summers, and I was anyway long hair, down to here, really really dark tanned, and but anyway, I always thought that I would not go to sea, and I thought that there was a school in Boston, Boston Maritime Institute, and that's where I wanted to go to school. But when that accident happened, it changed the entire family structure.
Right. You were
You know,
now the man of the house.
Well, and I had been, even though, my father, he sailed quite a bit. So one time he was gone a little bit over a year in my sixth grade elementary school. But so I was always looked, at as that, from my mom.
Right.
I used to, ride a bicycle with my Schwinn Stingray through the woods with a basket on the front to go get eggs and milk, man, and bring a little superette on Florida Avenue for
I
real,
love that.
and cross the creek too. So it was really,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but it's not there anymore. I went down there not long ago, and I went down to those areas. It's funny going
Oh,
places you've spent time or things that mean something to you.
and then they
But going,
change.
yeah, and it all changes. But going back to that, when I lost him, for some reason, I didn't want to go to the sea. I said, I just got to get away from this. And we had friends, and their father was in the Air Force, and pals were their names. And Mr. Powell had been injured in Vietnam, and he had lost one of his legs. But we always talked about the Air Force, and he just mesmerized me talking about aircraft and airplanes and
Right.
rockets and everything. I don't really remember exactly what his job was, but whatever it was really exciting. And I thought, I'll think about the Air Force. So Originally, I wanted to work on rocket engines. Where that came from, I have no idea. My father worked on, large engines and ships, huge, huge engines. But
You
I'm
never had
working,
an interest with it.
yeah, and I thought rocket engines are really cool, or
Yeah.
aircraft jet engines. So I passed the ASVAB test and I qualified for that. Somehow, I don't know. I didn't pay much attention, my last year of school, losing my dad on that first day of school. I went to 5 high schools in 3 years, just to kind of give you an idea.
Yeah.
We moved so much and stuff, but in that last year, I think I went to three in 1 year until I
Ah, God, that
graduated. Yeah.
sucks.
But anyway, um, so I was working 2 jobs, living in Gainesville, Florida, and every day when I was a construction job. I walked by this recruiter's office, and every day he'd see me, and he'd say, "Hey," he says, "You tired of doing all that hard work?" And I say, "Yeah, it is kind of easy for me, and this and that. We kept back and forth for weeks, And Henry L. Brunson, I still remember him to this day. He was a master sergeant. And so finally one day he said, "Come in here, let me see what you're all about." He said, "Can you do push-ups?" And I said, "Oh, yes, sir." I threw out like 25. I didn't even think about that, but
Right, right.
anyway, he asked me, he said, "You ever thought about the military?" And I said, "Well, the only thing I would think about," I told him my dad's thing. And he says, "Well, the Air Force is pretty good, pretty good place to live and pretty
Yeah.
good place to serve. And he says, "What do you want to do?" So I kind of told him that. And he tested me like 2 weeks later and sent me to an ASVAB test. That's what they call it today. It was different then.
Yeah, well, so for anyone who doesn't know, the ASVAB test is a preliminary test that you take in the military, and it it allows the military to see where you are intellectually, so that they can place you for a job
Right. Right.
after yeah. So after your basic training, the
You send me
ASVAB,
to technical
yes.
school. Yeah.
So you placed pretty high,
Well, I did. I placed high enough to where I could work on jet engines and
right? And then
rockets.
subsequently, nuclear
So,
weapons.
so they send me to, yeah, well, they send me to, after that, I did all the qualifications. I had to go run a half mile and all that, and do a sprint, 50 yards, whatever it was. And there was those requirements existed then, so many setups and so many pull-ups and all that. And there was a bunch of people, that were trying to go in the service. So
Right.
whether it be, not just Air Force, but the recruiters try to put you all together. So
Yep. Yep.
So I went to Jacksonville and I had done and passed everything and did all the physicals and everything that they had required. And so I was going to go into, some part of technical school, concerning rocket engines and that kind of thing. And so what happened is this staff sergeant came running down the hall. She was hollering my name. She kept calling me Mario Woods, Mario Woods. And at that time, I really didn't go by Mario. It's funny how you graduate through your names. And I was a Tony in elementary school and to my family and even in high school. And then my mother always called me Anthony. That's my middle name. And and when you enter the service, everybody calls you by your first name, and it just sticks.
Right.
And that's the graduation of it. But she came running down the hallway and she said, "I got to talk to you." And I said, "Well, what is it?" Ma'am. And she said, "Well," she goes, "We got a problem." And I said, "Well, what?" She goes, "We need you to come take a test for us." And I said, "Okay." And then she said, "You can't work on rocket engines." Yeah. She said, "I don't think you're going to be able to work on rocket engine." I was disheartened. I said, "Well, why? What do
Why?
you mean, right?" And
I did all the right things.
yeah, so this lieutenant was sitting there waiting for me to arrive with her, and she brings me in. And he was a doctor, right? He was an optometrist, and he goes, "Mr. Woods," he said, "You qualified to do this job." He said, "But I got a problem with your vision," and I didn't even think nothing about that. And
Right.
he goes, "I need you to do something," and he reaches over and pulls up this great big whole thing of. It was like a board full of wires, and I mean small wires, and they were all different
Right.
colors with spirals and all kind of stuff on them, color coded. And he goes, "Find me the yellow and the purple." I found the yellow, but the purple looked like something else, to me. And he goes, "And now find me this and that and that and this. And then he gives me what's that, the Horseshack test, where you have like a bunch of dots and there's a number in the middle of them.
Yep.
I could see some of them, and then it graduated to where I couldn't. He goes, "Well," He goes, "You're colorblind." And I said, "Well, I see colors just fine," which that's the most response you get people that are colorblind because they
I
say,
am also
"Are you
colorblind.
really?"
I am.
Well, I have some problem with reds and some things that
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
people don't understand colorblindness.
Mhm.
They think it's we see black and white,
Yeah,
but
and that's
we
not true.
that's not true.
Yeah,
It's
not true at all.
colors that we have issues with because people forget the eye is like a prism. So it
Absolutely.
collects the light and then the way the light bounces off of your iris and into I'm not sure the technical, but when it goes into the eye, it's then reflected like a prism,
Hmm.
and that's how you pick it up. That's how your brain picks it up. What we have is a cross in our prisms. So
Or color cones are inadequate. That's what I've been
right,
told.
exactly. So whereas I might see blue, you might see red
Or something, a variation of.
or a variation of
Anyway,
it.
it's
Yes.
technical enough to where you can't wire rocket engines if you don't have good color vision.
Oh shit! I didn't even think of that.
So that was the whole thing. So he says, "But I've got somebody I want you to talk to," and this security police tech sergeant, I think, comes in, and he's got a beret on and stuff. And I thought, whoa, look at this cat. He looks pretty. He's pretty sharp looking. He was built, and I like that. And he goes, "I want to show you some videos and give you some things to think about." So he takes me into his office area, and he's back then you had an old VCR, and he had some tapes, recruitment tapes, and it showed different career fields. And he showed me firemen, he showed me law enforcement, and he showed me security police work. There's a difference in LE and SP, and I can tell you that later. But
Yeah, please.
and anyway, so I see these guys rappelling out of a helicopter. I guess
Woo!
about 25 or 30 feet, and they've got their weapons and their packs on, and their berets on, their boots on. I mean, they just look really good. And I thought,
Right.
that's what I want to do right there. So that began my journey in security police and U.S. Air Force. And I'd always had
Wow.
a thing toward law enforcement anyway. I helped a couple police officers when I was real young, me and a best friend of mine one time.
You like helping people.
Well, you sure, man. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Got to help folks.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Mhm.
And so you've always had it sounds to me like you've always had a passion for helping people in some form or fashion. And so you go into military police. So
Yeah,
then after that, you find, you say, I want to do that. Um, Now you go off to what? Basic training?
yeah. Basic training, and then you go to security police technical school, and then you go through an air base ground defense school, and there's weapons training, there's heavy weapons training, there's tactics, there's armored personnel carriers,
Right.
all the standard stuff. All that really took place for the Air Force after Vietnam, because Air Force had a different role then as far as security of, say a runway and its
Hmm.
resources on a runway. And Marines were at our perimeter and armies were at our perimeter, and I guess they wanted the Air Force to do more from what I was told or understand. And they in turn, kind of developed, security police, air base ground defense specialists, that kind of thing.
Right. And
And it's just
so
blossomed to what it is today in security forces, which they're really
now
well.
do you recall the years that you were in basic training?
Oh yeah, in '75, May of '75 is when I went in.
So
Yeah.
75 was basic training.
Well, yeah,
And then
about a year and a half before, or about a year and 3 months before I was assigned to Ellsworth Air Force Base, and with
so,
all your trainings encompassed there, and then your first base is assigned, and went and got into Ellsworth in probably the last half of '75, early '76.
early 76 you got into Ellsworth Air Force Base.
Yeah,
Now,
I enlisted for 6 years. So when I came out of basic training, I was an airman first class. So that gives you E3 pay right out of basic instead of a airman
E1.
basic. You
Yeah.
know, just
So, yeah, yeah, gotcha. And you go to then you get stationed at Ellsworth,
mhm.
and what is your official title at Ellsworth Air Force
I
Base
was
by
an
the
airman
time?
first class security policeman assigned to the 44th Missile Security Squadron,
Ooh.
which there was about 800 of us at Ellsworth Air Force Base, just in security that manned all the missile sites. within the 66th, 67th, and 68th areas, which led from the Badlands of South Dakota down by Wall, South Dakota, all the way over to the Wyoming border, which ended with Kilo.
And I have your 44th Missile
Yeah,
Security Squadron,
I
Ellsworth Air
can't
Force
find my
Base.
patch on a uniform, which is unfortunate. I don't know where I can obtain another one, but I'm sure there's one out there somewhere I can get hold of one day. I try,
I'll get you one.
yeah. Oh man, don't worry about
I'll get you one. I promise. I promise I will get you one.
that.
Now at Ellsworth Air Force Base, you were there, and you were, as your job title, you were there for what reasons? What was what were your job duties on the base?
Well, my only duties were in the missile field. I sent the main base just support is your support facility. That's where your training takes place. Your upgrade level training as far as book work and that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You have a commander's option day, and I lived in the barracks when I first got there, and so you have particular duties there, but you have time off too. So you do a tour of duty, which was 3 days out in the missile field
Yeah.
and 3 days off. And within that 3 days off, you could be used, one day for commander's option day. It may be escorting a weapon back into the field. It may be filling in for somebody that's gone on vacation on another flight, or just an array of things that you could do. Other than that, you train. You went swimming at the pool, or had an indoor pool there, a great gym there. I played ping pong, and just you just live life. I guess it's kind of like a college style thing. You have an airman's club. You can go get a beer for 15 cents, and you have an NCO club, for non-commissioned officers, and you have an O club, an officers club. And they have entertainment. They have really good stuff, and it's even
Right.
better today. You
Right.
got chow hall and all that stuff. They cook for you and 3 squares a day and good food too. I mean, no matter where you are on the planet, good food. They really do cook well.
And so when, if there was, you know, say an alarm, you're on Ellsworth, and with your job title, um, and something happens, or are you the first person, or if you're on duty, are you the first person to arrive
well,
at the site?
well, that's really not the quite right. Okay, it's really not the right way to phrase it. When you're on the base, you're off. So you're off work. You're not responding to anything. When you are assigned, when you go on a tour and you're with a flight, and of that flight there would be what,
I,
55 of us. I'm 50. I'm just giving you a number. 50 of us. I could
yeah,
give you the correct number, but anyway, you go to our security building with your ditty bag. We call it a hawk bag, and that's got all your toiletries, your changes of clothes, and everything. And you're prepared for 3 days off that base on a missile site.
okay, I
Yeah, a
get it
launch
now.
control
I get
facility.
it.
You live there. So you're deployed. You get on a bus, these blue Air Force buses. There usually be 2 flights, and we're relief for the people that are there. So we in turn go out and relieve the guys that are
Relieve
there.
them.
The officer crews relieve the flight. There's a facility manager, and there's a chief cook on site for you. So the whole area is staffed, and you're off the main base. You're on a launch control facility, which is where you live. And when you live there, then you have charge of 10 nuclear weapons, launch
Okay.
facility weapons. Yeah.
And is that the average number of weapons that are on these Air Force bases?
Well,
Because
not Air Force. There was 150 total.
holy shit.
Well, you had three sectors, and each sector has 10 missiles, and uh,
Right.
and there's 15 launch control facilities where you live. So that was 150 rockets, and that's just at Ellsworth. Then you had Minot, North Dakota, same amount.
And
You had
Maelstrom.
F.D. Warren in Wyoming, and then you had Maelstrom in
Yep.
Montana.
So all these, so because I'm sure you're familiar with Robert Salas.
Oh yeah,
Um, the,
same thing.
oftentimes the number of missiles that go shut down is 10, and I was like, I deduced that, okay, so each site, or at least each individual site,
LF,
must, yeah,
LF, launch facility.
each individual launch facility holds about 10 to 12 nuclear missiles.
No, one. One rocket, one silo, one LF,
Well, okay, yeah, right, right. So one,
one missile.
but there's 10. You said that there was 10 per,
Yeah, 10
and then
sites.
10
November,
sites.
November, November 2 through 11
Gotcha.
sites, and you live at November 1. Or I'm just giving you as an example. It could be Kilo 1, and
Right.
you
Well,
three.
where I'm leading to is
Yeah.
these, these sites aren't just right next to each other,
No, no, they're all over the place.
all over the place.
It's a network, and not only is it a network that integrates with everything that's in the state of South Dakota, which is not there any longer, but it integrates right into into Wyoming, into Montana, into North Dakota. It's a missile network that's just huge.
Right. And now, now we get to the kind of weird stuff. Because Robert Salas had spoken about how now these missiles, at each launch facility,
Mhm.
they are not, they're designed so that if one goes offline, they it doesn't trigger
The
the
other,
next one
yeah,
to go
they're
offline.
independent of each other completely.
Right. So that's,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I took the long way around and I
yeah,
got stupid when I did
yeah.
it, but
Oh, come on, it's all right.
um yeah, I'm sorry. Um, so none of these missiles are connected to each other. So if one
No.
goes down, that
No,
means
they're not in parallel like an electrical circuit. They're not like that at
exactly.
all. They're
Right.
completely self-sustaining by themselves. Not
Exactly.
only are they self-sustaining, but they regulate their own everything underground.
Hmm.
Humidity, I mean, there's solid fuel rockets, at that time they were, and everything is dehumidified and everything is air conditioned and the whole site is standalone by itself. The
Now if
power
you
goes
could
out, there's something that will kick on power to run it.
right. Now if you could describe these sites in one word, what would you describe them as? In terms of safety.
In terms of safety,
So in terms of safety and how um these launch facilities, how strict they are, how you know how, good at what they are, on a scale of 1 to 10, it, are we talking the best of the best of the best?
construction wise, they are just about impervious to anything that you can think of or get your hands on to try to detonate one or take one or steal one,
Right.
alone, just beside itself, not including what you trip and then guys like me come out to find out what you're doing or see what you're doing.
Exactly.
We'll stop you. But yeah, there's no poor construction. There's no walls crumbling. There's never anything that could be questionable at all. I mean, you got to remember these launch facilities are they're out for anybody to drive by and see them.
Right. Right. They're,
They're
yeah, they're not
for a
necessarily a secret.
yeah, I mean, you might go climb that fence with inverted barbed wire at the top of it if you dare,
Right.
but you don't want to really do that. And
Right.
not, you don't have to fear for your life, but in a way you do, you know,
Right.
because
Now, over those missile sites, is there any are is that controlled airspace? Now,
I
is
don't
that,
think so. I don't
it's
know.
not restricted?
I don't believe it is.
No.
I mean,
Um
I don't know if a helicopter, like if I was out there and somebody's news helicopter came and hovered it, I'd have a tail number of that chopper and I would be relaying that, to
of
lead security
course.
control and they would find out who that is and why. And, if push came to shove and they really acted a little bit aggressive, then there would be some fighter jets deployed to us and on us in about 5 minutes from Ellsworth. I mean, where I was in November is 55 miles away from the main support base at Ellsworth.
See, and that's what and that's kind of, what I wanted to convey to our audience is that, guys, these missile sites aren't like, they're not right next to each other.
No,
They're not a
no.
stone throws away from each other. This
Um,
is a very long distance,
yeah, as I
between
said, they extend all the way from the Badlands of South Dakota in south of Wall into the east of Wall, South Dakota, all the way over to the Wyoming border. I mean,
yeah,
just that, so and they're far and north also. They're not just, they're everywhere.
Right.
I never thought there'd be so many, but and of course you learn what is there, and in the totality of it all, and you learn the whole area. You really do.
Right. Now, in that whole time, how long were you stationed at Ellsworth
I left in
before the incident?
just 2 years.
So you were there for 2 years. You knew the
Hmm.
base very well.
Well, yeah, I knew the launch facility area. I knew the missile areas very well, from
Okay.
Wall on up to on out to the West 68th area, which was Sturgis and that area.
How many alarms and situations were there before the incident?
Oh,
A handful, maybe?
no, no. I mean, put it this way: that antenna array on that one picture you see,
Yeah.
a bird the size of your fist. Those, what do they call it? Like they're pipers or something, not sandpipers, but they're
Um,
kites or something like that. They
yeah, I can't
They love
remember.
these pebble areas, and unfortunately, the tops of the sites were all covered with these with rock. And even though that, I need to get a picture of what a real LF looks like, and you can understand then why this looks like it does today. Uh, that's all. That's all been just taken completely apart, and the silo blown in and everything. And it's just the man that owns that property today of November 5.
I'm
Or
actually
that,
going to look up
November.
a picture.
Yeah. If I think if you Google Delta One, or I think it's Delta One, um, it'll pull that up, and that's the active museum that's still maintained by the state of South Dakota today that you can go and visit. But I heard there's like a 2-year waiting list to get in it.
Oh, I see the octagon that you're talking
Hmm.
about.
That's the blast door,
So
right?
that's the blast door.
Yeah, it weighed about 13 and a half tons, and
Oh my God.
it had a cow trail at the other end of it that you can see. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's on a rail system, just like railroad tracks. And conventional explosions, when it to launch, when they turn those keys and let her rip, a conventional explosion blows that door at a super high rate of speed right on those rails. And there's a trip plate at the end of that rail. It's only about a 12 or 15-foot distance, I believe. And that trip plate is like 1.5 inches of steel. And what it does is it trips that door as it blows back, it trips it upward this way and flips it away. So it throws 13 tons, 20, 30 yards out in the other direction. And then
Right.
the missile's gone immediately. It's just almost like a bullet out of a gun. There's really no
Yeah, of
warm up
course.
or anything like that. They're instant. That's why they're called Minuteman.
Yeah. And they're
They go right now.
intercontinental. So here's,
There you go.
yeah.
Now that's got a convex top on it for viewing, and but you see the concrete pad that it's sitting on,
Yep.
and they remove where those two items are areas are in the back. That would be where the rail would be, and then that door will be blown straight backwards and away off the site. So they're
I
pretty
haven't.
impregnable, believe me. And on top of that, there's an antenna array around that, and it stands. I guess those antennas are about 8 or 10 foot tall, but they monitor all the way down to the ground, and then above it, kind of like an umbrella, a few feet. And these birds that I was talking about will fly in there and set these alarms off. And
Right.
you have to, no matter what you're doing, you're in the vehicle and you go out to a situation is what it's called, and you find out what set the alarms off.
Oh my God, Mario.
Yeah. So it happened all the time. So how many, I really can't give you a number. I mean, and that just happens every day. And plus we do LF checks, launch facility checks. We check our gates, fence line for any activity that we may have gone unnoticed, or somebody cut the fence or tried to access a site in any way. We look for strange vehicles, or anything out of the ordinary. I mean, you see ranchers, they wave at you, they're on your side. They love it. They probably are better equipped weapon wise than we were. But oh yeah, those boys don't play out there, man. I love South Dakota. But yeah,
so,
so
and all right. So I would like you, if you don't mind, to take us back to that day.
that night.
Now,
Yeah.
that day that the incident happened,
Okay.
because now we know that you know the base very well. You've been there for 2 years. You've gone through basic training. You've gone through special job training. You've got, now at this time at Ellsworth of the incident, your clearance level at that point was
A secret, intact.
secret in.
Intact, yeah.
Okay. And now we know that, you know, uh, you're pretty respected. You're y- you know what you're doing, and something there. What I don't like about how unidentified, how Discovery, how they kind of framed your story, what I feel like they left a huge part out of this. Now you said, I can't remember. I think it was on Somewhere in the Skies. Now you had eyes on this craft far before
Hmm.
the November 5 incident.
At about 9:30, 9:20, something like that, all the way to almost 10, maybe 10 till 10, something like that.
PM.
Excuse me, I got a cough drop in here. My throat's sore for some reason, but I'll just go right back to it, and if you don't mind, I'll just start fresh and just say there was an individual named Michael Johnson that
Yeah. Start from wherever,
start back
because
there. Yeah, we arrived at the SATAP building, security police building, on a main base at Ellsworth, which is where we gathered as a flight. And you undergo a procedure called guard mount, and that's where you account, for your presence, and you're kind of visually inspected, your uniform, your boots. I mean, that happens every time you go to duty of any kind. Security
right,
police
right.
does that, law enforcement does it, dog handlers do it. I mean, that's
Yep.
part of being a policeman, security policeman. But anyway, so we reported and did what were assigned, any special orders, any briefings, safety briefings, traffic, or talking about, driving on clay roads, because people did have accidents, driving too fast. And you can get on a clay road and go all the way to North Dakota, and through Dakota on the same clay road, just like a highway.
Right.
They're really, really well designed though. But anyway, so we did that normal thing. We in turn gathered our equipment and uh, got on a bus, and these are regular looking, like they look like school buses. All they're configured a little different, tinted windows. They're dark blue, U.S. Air Force on the side of them, and they take two flights at a time out to their sites. Like this could have been November in Kilo. We would have been riding together, so it would have been that would have put 6, 12. That put 24 security policemen on the same bus, basically. So we are all in there with our equipment, and they take us to our sites, and then there you go. It's a blast door.
That's the
Yeah,
blast. By the way, I wanted to show you something real quick.
yeah. There you go. That's
There
that
it
Delta
is.
One. Don't you love what that says?
That is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my
Guaranteed.
life.
Yeah, delivery in 30 minutes or less, and the second one's free.
Oh my god.
That exists today.
That is amazing. I
Yeah,
When I found
I
that
don't
picture,
know.
I was like, I gotta.
Somebody told me, I don't know if this is right or not, but Domino's, when they found out that was there, I believe, I don't have any idea how many Domino's pizzas were delivered or continue to be delivered to that facility at Delta One. And I don't know if
Just
that's true.
because.
Yeah, they would just take pizzas. I mean, just take pizzas. Just,
Right.
of course they couldn't get in, because I mean that's underground. It's 65 feet underground. So this would all be done up top. Trip would have to be annotated. You just don't drive up to a launch control facility. You got to have.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, so going back to that, so we were on our bus, and this particular tour of duty, which would be for 3 days, I had a new member or a new team leader named Michael Johnson. Now, he was a real light skinned black guy, super nice. He told me he's from Chicago, Illinois. And that's been extremely difficult to research these records. We've been looking for him now since about 2014, and I looked for him before that. I bought a computer in 96, 95, kind of like when it was
Yeah,
first.
I think you said
It was
96.
a Gateway 60 Pentium, and oh my, had
Oh my god,
16
don't date
gigs, of,
yourself here.
16 megs of memory, and it was a $3,000 system. I mean, 67 years spans a great deal of time, but I mean, here in human terms, but anyway, so I've been trying to contact him, find him in any way possible that I ever could. And I written MUFON 2 or 3 times already. Uh, Basically because I had a layoff notice in 1995, and I managed to move around a little bit at the K-20 from the Y-12 site to the K-25 site before I finally, you just can't find any more jobs within the company of Lockheed Martin and Martin Marietta there.
Right.
But anyway, going back to the Air Force night, or to the LCF, we went out on our bus and performed our relief. And in this particular tour of duty, I was assigned the evening shift, which is 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., along with Michael Johnson. As I said, he was my team leader. He outranked me by 2 months. And we talked a little
It,
bit, really.
can I
Uh,
pause you for
yeah,
1 second?
yeah,
Now, I think it's imperative for us to know that Michael Johnson and you were only partnered together that night
yeah.
because your partner was on your true partner was on
Mhm.
vacation.
Well, he went to get married. Yeah.
Oh, he went to get married, so
Yeah, he went to North
but was on
Carolina
leave.
to get married, so he was going to be gone a full 30 days. But
So you
yeah,
had met Michael Johnson only that day.
yeah, just yeah, right prior. I didn't even meet him at guard mount. He was working vacation relief, so his days off, he didn't like it. He would be working with us, and
Okay.
those 3 days, and he
Okay.
would get his time back. But anyway, that he was vacation relief. So we got to November control, performed our relief duties, inspect vehicles, put up our stuff, and the whole 9 yards, and who was on bed rest and who wasn't. So the guys that were off duty could do whatever they wanted to. They were going to be on duty the next morning at 6 a.m. Anyway, so we took on duty at 6 p.m. And when we did that, it's just something simple. We just do our thing and show up and go to the flight security controller's office, which is right there inside. We're all together. We're one team, and talk a little bit, and what we're going to do, and this, see if there's anything important like LF checks. We're mostly left to day shift and that type of thing, but so
Right.
we responded. Whatever was needed, we had to do, and we would be dispatched by the missile launch team underground for any related alarms or anything. But anyway, so that night, we were watching television. I don't know what night. Was it a Friday night or Wednesday night? I don't know. You really didn't pay much mind to that. Only when you were off, you did.
Right.
You knew you were going to be there for 3 days anyway. So I think we made a little something to eat. But I guess it was about 9:15, 9:10, 9:15. I just walked outside, and what was amazing there, that still is, I guess always will be. Hopefully, it'll never be built up, so it won't be. But the skies in South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana are
Gorgeous.
clear night. Man, you can
It's
just put
gorgeous.
your hand in space and pull the Milky Way out of it.
Oh
Those
my God,
stars.
it's amazing.
It really is amazing. And I'm glad I got to see that in my lifetime, because
Now
someone
what
describing it doesn't do it justice. But it,
right, you have to be able you have to have seen it to
yeah,
understand
yeah,
truly.
really
Now
do.
what day was this?
I don't know the particular. I don't know the day. Like I said, I don't know if it was a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't remember. I don't know.
Oh, okay, okay.
That's been difficult because I don't know the day of the incident, but I just know it was about a week before Thanksgiving because I was going to be off, and I was married at the time. So it was important to me to be off. I've been married long, but anyway, so I walked outside about 10 or quarter after 9, and there's nothing but prairie as far as you can see, north, east, west, south. But you have the building behind you, so the
Yeah.
building would be south. I was looking north, and it's really easy to obtain or maintain a compass in your mind when you're in a place like that, because you always know where the sun is, and it's just there's nothing
Right.
obstructing anything. So
Rises in the
North Stars
yeah.
here, and so anyhow, I just looking around, and I just happened to look to my east, or just to the east of me, and I saw this. I thought, as I said before, either B-52 bombers or maybe a sortie of helicopters, like a couple of helicopters flying in tandem to each other, because they did that sometime. And we had helicopters at Ellsworth. Now, mind you, I'm 55 miles to the west of Ellsworth Air Force Base. So by drive time, it's almost an hour away. The flight time, it was just a minute, but it'd be a helicopter or a B-52 bomber, which sometimes they would be in tandem in a sortie, flying these like mock-up attack runs, that kind of low level. And
Right.
they were really impressive to see a B-52 bomber do its thing at low level. My God. But anyway, this light, it looked kind of, it had a different iridescence, had a different luminosity than anything I'd ever seen, including like searchlights on a ship or a maritime vessel, or
Hmm.
or I wanted to think of like Hollywood lights. You need to see those cans. I've never seen them in person, but you see pictures of them, the light stream in the air,
Yeah, yeah.
back and forth. I just tried to, in my mind, what the heck kind of light is that? And and at about a 30-degree angle due east of me, I could put my hand up and I could cover the light and I could cover the object with my hand. But it was almost, if I made a fist, I could see the light. So just that size variance, or what I'm trying to make a comparison of there, for a distance. I don't know really how many miles it was away from me, but it wasn't really that high. But maybe 400 or 500 feet, I guess, just at a 30-degree angle. I don't know what that would relate to. I've never done the math for that.
Right.
But as I watched it, it had a strange pulse. Um,
So
uh,
it's pulsating.
Not pulsing, but it had a little, it had something. It wasn't even in a sequence. It would just do it, and then it would be all right. And I kept thinking, damn, what's that? What is that? What is that looking like? An airplane? And that's all you can relate it to: airplane or helicopter. You know,
Right.
you know.
It's
And I
really your
thought,
only. It's your
moon.
only.
I don't even know where the moon was. I never saw it, but I guess I was too taken aback by this thing. But anyway, I kept thinking, what the heck, man? And I got this brainiac idea, and I'm not a smart person at all, but at sea sometimes, or like you see on movies, uh, maritime vessels will flash lights at
Flash.
each other.
Yeah.
You can see on Navy war pictures and that kind of stuff. And I know they used to do that on my dad's ships sometime, and I've seen them do it.
Right.
So one switch in the flight security controller's office in the front vestibule of our launch control facility where we lived. We lived above ground. The officers, maintained the launch control facility underground by elevator. And that's, or there's stairs too. But anyway, so I went into the flight security controller's office, and a friend of mine named Bill Holloman, and I said, Bill, and he was on the phone, and landline phone. He's talking to his wife back in Rapid City. And I said, Bill, I said, man, there's a really strange light up here on the horizon here, due east of us. He just kind of looked at me and he was talking. He had children, and
Right.
he was just talking away. And he just kind of did that, just kind of waved me away. I went, okay, no worries.
Right.
I said, I'm gonna turn the lights out and turn them back on. And on the facility, there were about 12 to 14, like 2 foot diameter light cans. Perimeter security lights is what they were. And they were quite bright for the time of 77, but not compared to what it was today. I mean, you have some lights today will burn your eyeballs out.
Yeah.
I wish we'd had those back then. It would have made a big difference later. But anyway, so I just reached up and it was a rocker switch kind of toggle. And I just went bit, 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 bit. Did that like 3 or 4 times. No sequence. It wasn't an SOS. It wasn't any phonetic
Ju-
alphabet.
so
Nothing but
no sequence
hey,
whatsoever.
turn it off and on, turn it off and on, turn it off and on. Kind of like that. Like that kind of
Right.
thing.
Right.
You know. And I didn't know what damage it would do to the light cans. So those lights, I didn't know if it messed them up or what. I didn't really care at the time. So I go back outside and I'm looking at this thing and it's still in the same position. I'm thinking, it's not doing anything. And all of a sudden, just like clockwork, man, it just went blip, 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 blip,
And it
blip, blip. And
flashed
I went,
back.
that's
It
it. You
flashed
know,
back at you.
yeah, yeah.
And
And
to
there
your
again,
rec.
I still think it's an aircraft, right? So let me finish. I still think it's a damn old airplane or a helicopter because I have motioned helicopters before and or aircraft, low flying aircraft, like single seater, like a crop duster or something, like wave your wing, even fighter pilots. I had
Right.
a roommate who was a fighter pilot at Moody Air Force Base, and if we'd be on the runway or something, I'd see these guys coming down the runway, I'd do some things to them, they'd go, that kind of thing. It was really quite cool. So yeah, I mean they love doing that
That's
knowledge.
awesome.
Those guys, hair on fire, man. I love it. But Anyway, so I did that, and that was just wow, man. So I would run back inside, and I said, Bill, I said, this thing flashes lights at me. So I did it again, and I told Michael Johnson. I kind of got excited about it, and he was sitting and looking at the TV. Now, mind you, we only had 3 channels back then in '77, and it all went off at midnight anyway, and that signal would come up on the screen, and I said, Michael, I said, not knowing him, I said, come out here and check this out, man. I flashed the lights at this object or this light in the sky, is what I told him. I said, but you need to come see it. He didn't even move at first. And I was back outside looking at it, right? And I just flashed it and I said all this and I ran back out there again and it didn't do anything. Michael Johnson walked down there out and I said, hold on, man. I said, look at that. I said, what do you think it is? And he really didn't say anything at the time, like, an airplane, helicopter. I don't know what it is. That's what he did say.
Right.
I don't know. I said, well, hold on, man. I said, I flashed the facility lights at it and then it flashed back at me. And he just kind of looked at me. He didn't say nothing. So I ran back inside again. Bill Holland's still on the phone. And I said, Bill, I'm going to flash his lights again.
Right.
Flashed, did it again, went back out, didn't do nothing. About 2 minutes passed and it went blip, blip,
Oh
blip,
my God.
blip, 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 just like that. So that's a second time. And he goes, And I said, man, I said, that's the second time it's done that. And all of a sudden, as I said that, it went out. And I went, well, dang. I said, well, how did it do? It must have turned the other way. That's what I said. Must have turned the other direction. He said,
Now,
we waited. And we waited a few minutes. He turned and he said, what? He just said, whatever. He did his hand, whatever. And I remember that. The more I talk about it, the more I remember him, and that's what I need to do. I try to remember him all the time.
we're going to find him.
So he walks, he walks back inside, and maybe 3 or 4 minutes went by, and I smoked cigarettes since, so I lit up another cigarette. I'm kind of excited and kind of let down all at the same time.
Yeah. Oh my God. I couldn't
Well,
imagine.
no kid, no sooner than I thought that, and I took probably 2 hits of that cigarette. All of a sudden, that light popped back on, but from where it was, it moved closer, kind of like at a 45, and then it appeared more to the north of me. And I went,
Oh, no.
wow, wow, man. I said, I can't believe that's awesome. So now I'm beside myself. I throw the cigarette down literally, and I run inside. And who else was in there? I think the facility manager, he was up, and I said, hey, I need you to come look at this thing. I told Michael Johnson, I said, it's back. And I think I told the facility manager, why don't you come
Right.
check this out? He didn't come. He didn't come out. And I went by Bill Holland's place, his office. He's sitting and it's just a little side vestibule, in the flight security controller's office.
Hmm.
And our weapons are stored there and our code tables and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the elevator goes downstairs behind him. And
Okay.
so he's still on the phone. I said, Bill, I'm gonna flash the lights again. I said, it moved over here to the north. And I think the hill or the mountain is called Castle Rock. It's on Highway 79. It's just north of that location. So it's a really cool plateau. It looks like it has 4 columns on the side of it. That's why they call it Castle Rock. And there's some Indian folklore about that, Sioux Indian folklore about it. But
That's
anyway,
interesting.
beautiful. Yeah, it's really a
Interesting. You
cool
know
place.
the Stephen King Castle Rock?
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of
That's
interesting.
kind of weird. And then, of course, south of that is Bear Butte, and that's just outside of Sturgis. It looks like a sleeping bear when you're coming down the interstate heading to Sturgis. It's really cool.
Oh
But
wow, that's awesome.
yeah, I mean, they both were inside of each other, which is really unique. But so anyway, this thing pops back on, and so I go in there and I tell everybody, and my partner Michael Johnson, facility manager, he didn't pay any mind to me. Older guy, these guys they had a great job, man. Anyway,
Right. Right.
uh, anyway, so I told Bill Hallman, I said, I'm gonna flash the lights again. So I did it again, did that same sequence. Didn't mean anything. Went back outside, and it went off, and it didn't come back on. And I was just like let down. I was let down. I thought, well, dang, well, I guess they turned and went the other direction. Still thinking it was an aircraft or something that I'm just imagining, haven't even imagined yet, you know.
Right.
And yeah, I remember saying, I said, I guess the show's over. And I did say that. I remember saying, I guess the show's over. And went back inside, and it was probably 10 minutes to 10 at that particular time. And watched some TV, maybe picked up a book or something, you know. Sometimes we play cards or the game of Risk, that kind of thing. If we would
Yeah.
do that, we didn't do that that night. I think I was reading a book or something, and the TV went off at midnight. And so you're kind of left to your own into it, do some push ups, or we had a little workout place outside. But it was right around 12:20, 12:15, 12:20 p.m. And in the flight security controller's office, there is a phone that's direct connection to the council crew. And it's a direct phone that goes right to them, and they in turn pick up their phone. And when it does, and I have to simulate this, and it bothers me to even do it, it goes, and you have to pick that phone up. It won't stop until you pick it up. It's that kind of phone. It doesn't ring like, well, maybe I'll answer. No, no. When that phone rings,
You
somebody
answer.
somebody better get on it. But and anyway, it was either a lieutenant or a captain, you know, that was in the launch control facility, and one of the officers said that, you know, we have a situation 4 at November 5 LF, and that's a pretty serious alarm. It's not a usual alarm. I mean, it happens, but it's not very usual. And that's an outer zone penetration and an inner zone penetration of an area. Uh, so a certain set of sequences or events have to take place in order to find out or investigate what caused that alarm. So
Okay.
we're immediately, you know, we're issued our code tables, our weapons, and we have our ditty bags, and everything's all ready to go in case we have end up camping out on the site, and which sometimes happens, waiting for a camper alert team, you know, to come out if they can't reset the alarms that particular evening or whatever, and let alone anything happening. But so anyway, we get all of our stuff, and I guess it was somewhere right around 12:30, 12:45, 12:40. We departed November Control after our safety briefing, and we had a travel time of about 15 minutes. Now, granted, in that case where you're traveling, you have you do a radio security check every 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. I think it's 5 minutes. Um, in this particular situation. So our travel time, as I said, was about 15 minutes to November 5 from November 1. And so if the temperature was between 9 and 13 degrees that night. There had been a blizzard. The ground was frozen. I remember that because when you walk on the grass, it would crackle. You know, I had on my bunny boots, my flight pants, my heavy parka, long johns, you know, with a uniform over top of that, long sleeve, everything buttoned, and you know, you had a fur collar on your parka, and you had mittens on or heavy duty gloves. I had mittens, and so anyway, we dispatched, and Michael Johnson was the operator of the vehicle. As I said, he was the team leader because he outranked me by a couple of months. And we went out of the gate and to the first corner, turn left, and went to the second corner. Now, these are all clay roads, and headed toward Highway 79. And in doing so, it's about 4.5 miles up to Highway 79. The roadbed is built upward. So when moisture such as snow and ice form on it and it melts, they can run off. So and they maintain them very well, and they salt the roads and all that. But as we approached it, we were coming from low to high, up to 79. And when we did that, I just happened to look over my right shoulder out the window, and we operated F-150 pickup trucks. They were just two-wheel drive trucks with blue bubbles. They're dark blue in color. U.S. Air Force security police on the side of them, and it's just really just a standard pickup truck with a weapons rack behind you, mounted radio, bubble, and all that stuff on top of it, and big Western mirrors. I guess they didn't think any of us could drive, but we could. And so as I looked out the over my shoulder out of the passenger side, about the 4 o'clock position, as I turn and look, I see this glow in a distance. It's say 5 to 7 miles as the crow flies, and it was
Okay.
it was pulsing like that. It was pulsing, you know. And I went, "Wow, what is that?" Because you know you're used to a lot of things out there that you see, but you're not used to seeing something doing that. There's usually not energy sources that out in the middle of those prairies that do that at any time, unless there's a fire or something like that. And I never saw that. Saw buffalo running and clouded the whole atmosphere, but didn't see anything like that before, or lightning strike the ground and cause a large fire. And then
Right.
again, this was super cold night, and it's crystal clear,
Crystal
but
clear, you said, right?
so I said, Michael, I said, look at that. I said, object. He didn't even look because we're still going up to Highway 79. And as we stopped at the stop sign, which is Missile Road and Highway 79, I'm going to get those road signs. I'm going to buy me a set of them. Daggone things are expensive to buy them from the state. They're like $200, man. Anyway, uh, as we turn to south, heading toward the little town of Newell, we were still up on this plateau. Now we're on the hard pavement. And so now that 4 o'clock position became about 1 o'clock position or 1:30, and you could see that glow. And I said, "There's that object, man.
Right.
It's sitting on that site."
Oh
And
my God.
he said, "Whatever." And I said, "I'm telling you." And
Whatever.
yeah, he said, "Whatever." He didn't. I know he had to be
And
looking
it
at
was
it.
visually in sight.
Well, I mean, the glow was, but the glow was more tense now than when I first saw it on the dirt road coming up to the
And how
plateau.
often did you see a glow coming from the distance of a missile site? Never.
No, not ever.
So why would well, you know
Not
what?
ever. He
His
just said, "Hey,
answer
look
was
here,
whatever.
man." Hey, it was like it was as if whatever I imagined flashing those lights at has come true, sitting about 5.5, 7 miles from me.
Right. Can I?
And
I want to.
that's what flashed through my mind. I thought, oh my God, maybe that wasn't an aircraft, maybe that wasn't a helicopter. Whatever it is over there though, because it had
Right.
that same intensity, that same
Gaseous and
hue of light, the hue
yeah.
of light, what the hue of it. So as we went downhill, then we lose sight of that pulsing, of that glow, right? And still we were very quiet. I mean, both of us were thinking, I wish I could have put it on. I wish I could have read his mind out loud and him mine, because I don't know what he was thinking, but I kind of didn't know what to expect. Or I knew what
Right.
I was thinking, but I didn't know what to expect. But for some reason, something inside me always feels like an ambassador.
Yeah. I like that.
It's kind of strange. Something not being able, so it kind of removes fear in some way. I don't really know, but I'm just telling you an inner feeling that I have. But so we go to the stop sign in Newell, South Dakota. There's one stop sign, and there's one red light. One stop sign. Can you hear this in the background?
I can.
You can. That's my dog with a squeaky toy.
Oh my God. My
Daisy,
dog.
man.
My dog does that all the time.
Daisy.
If you wanna take, do you want to take a pee
Yeah,
break?
no, no, I'm good right now. I'm good.
All
She
right.
came to see me. So anyway,
Oh.
yeah, this is my puppy dog. This is Daisy May.
Oh,
And
hi Daisy. Hi
say hey, Ty.
Daisy.
Say
Logan.
hey,
Oh,
Ty.
I wish Logan would come say hi. My pup would love to. Maybe I'll bring my pup down to see you guys.
That's my girl right there, boy. She my little
She's
baby dog.
what? She got
I
a lab.
adopted
Is
her.
she a lab?
No, she's part pit and
Pit.
Weimaraner.
I was gonna say it's either
Yeah,
lab or pit that I can see, but
yeah.
it's a little just.
But
Oh yeah,
she's the
now I can see the
friendliest
pit.
thing. She is the friendliest puppy dog. Loves me to death, man. Yeah, smiling at me, aren't you? But anyway, so we get to the stop sign, and that's Orman Road, and you can look at it on Google Maps today and follow it out there. And the population at that time was 230, and the population today is 650 in
Which
Newell.
is
In
remarkably
Newell.
small
Yeah,
for this day and
yeah.
age.
Same high school. It's a beautiful little town, though. People are just so kind and everybody cooks the best stuff there, man.
Right.
But Linda Moulton Howe, Robert Hastings hinted at it too, but he didn't really, being that he's not in any kind of video production or doing interviews or anything, and I hate that for him, but because he's such a dapper Dan kind of guy,
I know. He'd be
Tie in
so
the
good
right
on
place,
camera.
suit, haircut, speech, glasses, everything about him is impeccable.
He'd be
You
so
know,
good on camera.
yeah, yeah, and going back to what Unidentified did when they put that Caroline girl on that woman on there and said that was sleep paralysis, like my buddy Jeff Goodrich,
It pissed me off so much.
Oh man! And then I didn't like the way Lou questioned Robert either, and
Yeah,
that's why
that's the fluff production they like to do.
that's why he left. That him and Chris Mellon both left that
Left the show.
Academy to the Stars. They left that. They
Yeah.
said, "Man, we're not going in any way near this direction."
Yep.
Because I mean, Lou knows stuff. Don't think he doesn't. He knows stuff, man.
But
I mean, look,
he
I left USDOE in 1996. So, we're in 2023. And imagine, what's there now. If I was still in that, what I would know.
I
I mean, honest.
know.
And what I've seen has just been, I mean, I've been to some really unbelievable laboratories in the United States that are weapons laboratories, and I've seen some things
I
that
mean, Los
blow.
Alamos is no joke.
Yeah, no joke.
I mean,
No
that's
joke.
tied to Bob Lazar. That's
Yeah,
tied
I
to
mean, yeah, he
all of
was
our
there when I was there. I didn't see him or know him, but he was there during that period of time. Now, when I
Bob Lazar was there. Well,
in the
the
same year, yeah, yeah.
dates that you were there coincide with Bob Lazar.
Well, he was working there at the time. Yeah,
What the fuck?
yeah. I mean, I went there in what year? 1988. He was still working there. Now, I was assigned to a scientist at the
I'm sorry.
S4.
Can you say the date again?
I went out there in 1988 is when I went out to Los Alamos. And we were sent out there for for weeks at a time to we were augmenting the security force that was out there, and I was sent to the S4 Advanced Nuclear Research Facility where I was kind of like a personal security security policeman for as an inspector. That's what we were called with DOE. It was a security inspector with a scientist, and that's what I did at S4. And I don't even know his name uh, because everybody's assigned one, and you
Yeah.
escort, you walk with them, and I got to see.
So there are scientists at S4.
Yeah, now this is S4 at Los Alamos. You're not. I'm talking about
Yeah.
Area 51.
Yeah. No. No. I'm
Well, I've
saying,
never been there before, but
but
I've heard there's an S4 at Area 51.
there are
Yeah.
scientists at Los Alamos at
Oh,
S4 that are being guarded, if you will.
oh yeah. When they're inside that complex, we take care. We have towers and everything. Heavily armored personnel carriers, a SWAT team, everything.
Jesus.
Yeah, everything.
Jesus.
The whole top of that mountain is contaminated from the
Really?
Manhattan Project. Yeah, you can. You see like
From the
pottery
Manhattan
shards.
Project?
Oh yeah, man.
Wow.
Oh yeah, you see like pottery shards. I mean, that's where Anastasia are right down the hill from there. And I mean, there's cliff dwellings. You can take a tablespoon and dig a condominium in the side of a mountain.
Oh my God.
That's still there today. Yeah, yeah. I
Right.
mean,
And won't be habitable for thousands of years.
yeah, yeah. Now,
Wow.
what you don't want to know is that the ground's still contaminated, but from what all transpired out there, but like you see these beautiful pottery shards and stuff out in the wilderness, like an S4 area is a
Right.
huge area, right? And you do patrols within that area, and you'll get out and see these beautiful painted pieces of pottery, they're thousands of years old. And but if you got a Geiger counter with you, you can't take
Right.
it.
You can't touch that.
Yeah, I mean, I had a whole bag of it, didn't even know it, and I turned on the Geiger counter and our personnel carrier, the damn thing went nuts. Oh shit.
Right. Right.
That's nice stuff, man. I had a metate, which is used to grind wheat in a stone. It looks like it's
Right. Right.
a long, weird stone like that. I didn't,
Right.
I tossed it all. I couldn't take any of it, but
Yeah. There's no way to clean it either.
no, it's done. But
Um,
yeah, it's quite an area out there, man. I saw a cold fusion test out there, or attempted test, and which we're doing fusion today. They say, these were the two doctors that were there from the University of Chicago doing that.
Yeah.
And then I saw a burst of americinium, element 95, uh, that was done in a kiva in a controlled environment, which was
Yep.
a test of a burst, and it's used in a weapon. And the room temperature went from about 68 degrees Fahrenheit and in 1/10,000th of a second to over 600 degrees in that kiva or that room that it was in. And I saw the blue flash, and I was in a control room, and the scientist that I was with said, if you were anywhere else other than in this room, he said you'd be dead. He said
Oh my God.
that for real. Yeah.
Now, is that something I should edit out?
If you want to,
Have you ever told that before?
yeah, I think I have.
Oh, okay. So that's
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's okay.
Um, all right, yeah. So back
Maybe I'd
to
explain it a little bit different, a little bit.
right. No, that's in
I wouldn't be
fucking
laughing
insane.
about it.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah, I
insane.
saw a test burst with a Mercenium element 95, you know,
Um,
at Los Alamos, and that
now
was years
to
ago.
your um at your pace, um, you see this craft over so you're dispatched
Okay,
due
well,
to a
let's go back to the stop sign because that's where we left off, and
okay,
everything's
okay,
segmented.
okay,
So,
yep, yep.
you can pick up right from there. So, as we went down Highway 79 from the road, when I first saw that glow at the 4 o'clock position, turning off south onto the Highway 79, as we went down the plateau, the glow got to be less because we were more flat with the earth, and the glow, was hidden more by, you know, the I guess what the ground area,
Yeah, the terrain.
the terrain. Thank you. And so we arrived at the only stop sign in Newell. There's one stop sign still today, and one stoplight a little bit further down the road. Population today is 650. Then it was about 234 or five, something like that. And I know that because they had signs entering and exiting Newell, population 230. That's what it was at that time and in 77. So we turn right at the stop sign and the road continue on for about a mile and a half on hard surface, on regular road type material. And then it dog legs to the left and it drops off, it dog legs and turns back on the clay. And when we kind of rounded that corner, then that glow was emanating up off the ground. And as we turned that corner, it's not a corner on a 90, but a dog leg, to the left. There sat this object about a mile in front of us,
Oh my God.
sitting directly over November 5, about 10 feet in the air, right on top of that blast door without touching it, about 10 feet off of it. And we pulled up just looking at this thing, and the closer we got, it seemed the brighter it got, like there was a plasma, some kind of a plasma discharge surrounding this this craft that emanated outward like the sun would be, and but not flames as the sun would have on it, but
Right.
electrical plasma. I've seen a Tesla coil test one time, and that ball of electricity at the top of it was fuzzing like it does, and that's what it looked like. But
So it was
I couldn't see a part
gaseous.
of it. Well, I thought it was gaseous, but I thought
S-
there was something in the middle of all that. I think pushing, that was some kind of a field around it.
So
Now,
that right. So that was some sort of maybe
yeah,
let's say it was a protective layer, right?
could have
Some
been
some sort of force field.
or
Now
charging or that too, right?
looking at the object, you said it had no hard edges, which
Correct.
now you couldn't see anything beyond the
That veil,
exterior.
no, and it was very difficult to look at it because of the brightness.
So brightness,
Yeah,
the so
and
bright your
even
eyes
when
hurt.
as we pulled up to it, we pulled, as you can see that one picture, we pulled our vehicle up to a 45-degree angle on that just the outside of the cattle crossing area there to the entrance, which is about 20 yards away, 60 feet, I would say, from the road of Ormond Road, which is a clay road. And but the diameter of that craft was so large that where the diameter edges of it were, our vehicle was just almost not under it, but just it was just over, a few feet away in that fashion. If I'm describing it right, like if you take a beach ball
Yep.
and you put a little figure here, you can't see the top of it. You can just
Right,
see the
right,
edge
right.
of it this way. So that's what it was, and I was so frightened by what
Uh,
we were seeing, and in disbelief in all actuality, that as I sat in the seat, the even with your eyes closed, or trying to close, the light was behind your eyes. It was as if it was looking clean through you.
oh my God.
It was just the most unbelievable experience that I've ever had in my life, and still to this day. I mean, as if I can feel it, and I wasn't about to get out of the vehicle. When we pulled up there, I can't remember doing a security check or anything like that. And I kept saying, "What is it? What is it?" And Michael Johnson didn't answer me. Didn't answer me. And all of a sudden, in that chain of events and those thoughts, which are just a millisecond, uh, the atmosphere. Now the windows were up, right, and it's cold outside, and you want to be as secure as you can in a situation like this, or you
Of
think you
course. Of course.
are. And all of a sudden, the atmosphere in that truck just started being like as if somebody put a vacuum on the cab of that truck and started pulling all the air out of it, and couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. I mean, it was as if pressure was being exerted on the front side of my body against my back. It felt as if I was being pulled up into the
Oh
back
my
seat
God.
or into the rear glass, because these are just single cab vehicles with a
So
weapon.
this is a Ford truck.
F-150, yeah, a 1976, 77 F-150 Ford, single cab, 6-cylinder motor, and I think there were 6 cylinders. I don't remember that, but it just pulled me up. It felt as if I was literally being pulled up. Now I got this parka on, flat pants on. I'm about 220 pounds, and bunny boots on, and a weapon between my leg, and I got a weapon belt on with ammunition and everything. And Michael Johnson is sitting there on that steering wheel, and he's looking straight ahead, just not he's not saying anything. And I'm like doing all the talking. I'm going like, what in the hell is it? What is this? And as we were getting pulled up, I'm saying, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And it wasn't a physical condition that I was doing. It was something being exerted upon me that was
On
causing
you.
me not to be able to breathe. I was in really good shape. I could flat foot 20 miles and smoke cigarettes. I mean, really, no kidding. But anyway, I only knew one thing to do: to ask for relief. Now, where that thought came from, I don't know. And I rolled that window down. They looked like that, only they were dark blue, and had blue bubbles on the top of them in Western mirrors. I rolled the window down, and I reached up and I pulled myself up. Now, mind you, I've got this hand's free.
Yep.
This hand's got one of my mittens on that came down about right here. They were beefy. They were pilot's mittens
So
that are
they
fur.
hung there.
So they got fur on the back, and they get this finger's free for your trigger finger, your index
Yep.
finger, and they're like that, and they're like a pod, and but they're really super warm. They got fur on the back of them. They're gray nylon. And I pulled myself up on that windowsill, and I had my mag light, a 3-cell or 4-cell mag light. I can't remember, but it was huge, weighed a ton compared to lights today. And I grabbed onto the blue bubble to hold myself up, and I just took my mag light and I started flashing my mag light at this thing. Blip, 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 blip. I don't even know, no sequence, but it followed, I guess, the same pattern as I did at the launch control facility.
Right.
That's all I knew to do. And when I did that, I did it a couple of times, and then that was enough. I said I knew that was enough, and I just slid down into the seat. I rolled the window up. I put my weapon between my legs, holding onto the barrel and the A-frame of the front sight, and then I started to go into like tunnel vision or something. And I told Michael Johnson it was going to be. I said it's going to be okay now. And I felt reprieve. I felt a reprieve on the pressure on my body, knowing he was feeling the same or thinking he was feeling the same. I don't know, because he wasn't speaking. And as this tunnel vision got smaller on me, and I thought, well, I guess I really thought this. I guess I'm going to black out. and I didn't know why. And I was so afraid to look to my right, and I sensed something. I was literally here. I'm holding on to a gun, fully automatic weapon, a real automatic weapon
Right.
with plenty of ammunition, knowing I would never use it to whatever this was, because you don't know whether to shoot at it, run from it, or mess yourself. And you might do
Right.
all three of those things if you weren't some kind of
A,
emotionally controlled,
a, a lot of people try to say that, the, oh, I would have done this. I would
Yeah,
have done that.
yeah,
No, there's none
yeah,
of that.
right.
You it fight or flight
Some people say that,
takes over.
but
And
before I blacked out, Ty, seriously, and I got my beret on my head, just like this. I have it here, still same beret, and I turned to my right in this tunnel vision kind of thing, fogginess. I can't describe that. I mean, the only way I can describe that vision is if you ever passed out, and it's those moments just before you black out. But you can remember those if you think back to them,
yeah,
and before you did pass out.
yeah.
And I saw these four figures, maybe less than 20 feet away from me, approaching me. And there's four total. There's three small ones, and there's a tall one behind the three small ones. And the tall one, the tall being, was chest and head and shoulders above the smaller ones.
So about a 3 to 4 foot being
Yeah, 3 to 4 foot
plus a six
small,
foot being.
then a 6 foot behind them. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
and I remember I remember how I felt flush, like, and just thinking about this, I just felt like I was flushing or something in my body. Like I said earlier, my nerves were literally on fire, and then I just went black.
Yep. And that was it.
That was it until
Until later on.
until I literally it felt as if I went like this, and then I went like this. I did this, went out, and then I just came to, and I'm in total blackness. And I said, Michael, where are we?
Pitch
Where
black.
pitch black. I said,
No
where?
street.
No, no, no,
Obviously,
no,
no
no
street
street. There's
lights,
no
but
street. I said, where'd that light go? Where did it go? What happened?
missing time.
Because
That's missing time.
the missile sites have a couple of lamp posts on it. I mean, they do have light at night out there. And I said, where are we? No answer. I looked down, looked around, and I said, man, I said, hey, you hear me? You okay? He was just frozen to the wheel.
Still.
Yeah, just not comatose, but there's a word for it. I'm trying to. He was just frozen, catatonic. He was
Yeah.
catatonic, looking straight ahead. He was blinking, he was breathing, but he wasn't answering. I don't know if his mind was broken or something for that period of time. I
Or
don't know.
just
I mean, I,
stunned.
I pushed him like this, I pushed his face, I pushed his arm, and he would move, but
He
he wouldn't
wouldn't
like his knuckles
budge.
were white on that steering wheel.
Did you try? Now, were his hands? Did you
He was
try
at
to
the he was at the 10 and 2 position on that steering wheel, just like that.
the
Just like
same way you pulled up?
Yeah, same way. He never the
What
way
the
we when
fuck?
we arrived November 5, the next time I saw him, he was still in that same position.
Oh my god!
Still in the same position. Still his parka was on, everything, fur around his collar. And I reached down and I grabbed that door and I opened that door and I stepped out with just one leg out, still sitting on the seat partially because they weren't elevated or raised vehicles. I stepped out and I stepped in mud and I had on bunny boots and I said,
Oh my god!
what the hell is mud doing here?
Yeah, because
Literally,
because you
we
were you
walked.
were not in a place with mud
No, the
in
ground was
your
frozen.
mind 1 second ago.
Yeah, and 1 second ago, I'm looking at a missile site, that had
Yeah.
missiles over top of it. The next second, I'm standing in mud, or I'm got one leg in the mud, and not 10 feet from me, not even 10 feet, is this white wall that went from the ground. It went kind of out of my sight, a great big wall at a 45-degree angle. And I go, what is this? And then I looked north and south as far as I could see, and there was a white wall at a 45-degree angle.
A white wall?
Yeah, a white. I'm not a not a 90-degree wall, but a white wall like this at a slant.
What?
And I said, man, what is this place? Where are we? No answer. And I no sooner got that out of my mouth than when that radio cracked alive and it said, WSC November 1, do you copy?
So the radio came back alive.
Yeah, all of a sudden, I don't even know if the vehicle was running. I don't know if it ran off battery. I don't know if I don't even remember the vehicle running. And I said, Michael, you going to get that? Thinking for some unknown reason, he's come to now.
Yeah, yeah.
Catatonic, 10 and 2, frozen out. And I reached down and I grabbed that radio and I said, Senior Airman Woods, WSC. I said, this Senior Airman Woods, I don't know what our location is. He wanted to know where we were. And I said, I don't know where we are, sir. He goes, well, I need you to do 1 minute security checks and continue that until we locate you. We're trying to triangulate you. I'd never done that before, nor had I ever participated in triangulation. However, in security police tech school, you learn they teach you or they show you that can. I remembered some of that, so I'd never done it or even participated in it, and
But it
but they did it, so they found us. But it was some time, and before we were discovered, I don't even know why. I'm still talking to Michael Johnson or trying to, but I'm getting nothing out of him because I'm asked about him and I'm doing these security checks. And I told him I needed help with him on WSC. I said, I have my partner. He won't speak. I said he's awake and aware. To the best of my knowledge, he's breathing and his eyes are open, but I can't get him to speak to me. And
now
I never got a comment back on that from WSC. They just made sure that I continued with my wings with my security checks. But all of a sudden, I kid you not, I looked to the east, something changed, and the sun's beginning to come up. I hadn't even looked at my watch, and I look at my watch, and it's after 6 a.m. Now, mind you, we arrived November 5 at probably around anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes before 1. We got the dispatch a little after 12, 12:20 maybe.
so we're talking 5 or 6 hours.
We're talking, yeah, 5 hours. There at least 5 hours. And I'm freaked out because, and then once I see the sun, once I see the horizon is lightening up, light from the sun rising. I look to my south, and then I see lights coming over this hill, and it's headlights. And I went, wow. And I tell WC, I see headlights.
Hmm.
So that's a backup alert team, and they said, they're coming to see you and that kind of thing. Anyway, it ended up being 3 patrols. So that was 6 security policemen looking for us. And I think it was another armed response team, our team as we were, on duty that were dispatched from their flight,
Yep.
from their launch control facility to come look for us, an additional backup alert team, and then an additional team to them also. So there were 3 security police patrols looking for us to find us. And when the first one arrived, it was a Sergeant Garza. And he stopped about 20 yards, 60 feet away from me or so, but he walked into the head. He was driving, so he walked into the headlights. And I was trying to walk to meet him, and I said, hey, I didn't know who it was first, and I said, man, what happened? I said, can you tell me what happened? And he said, Mario, I need you to stay right here with the vehicle. He says, I'm not allowed to talk to you about it, but we're here to escort you to November Control. And I said, oh, okay. I said, but I'm gonna need some help with my partner. I said, Michael Johnson, he's working vacation relief. I don't know him that well, but
He's unresponsive.
something's wrong with him. I said, and he's seat belted in. I said, I need to slide him over and to drive back to November Control. And he helped me. And we slid him over, belted him back in. I mean, literally had to pull his hands off that steering wheel. And he just
So when that's what I wanted to ask you. When
yeah.
you pulled his hands off of the steering
Mhm.
wheel, how tight was he holding?
As tight as you can grip something and hold on to it.
Wow.
his arms were just flexed, you know. He was just
So
flexed.
he was tense.
Oh, he was, yeah, he was. I mean, we
Tense
literally had to
probably
pry,
doesn't
you
even
know, we
describe it.
pried his hands off this way. You know, we pried his hands open that way, and just set his arms in front of him, and then
This
got over
is-
the other side and just literally reached, grabbed the inside of one of his legs in his uniform or his jacket and just pulled him across the seat. These are blue vinyl seats, so he didn't weigh that much, maybe 145, 150 pounds or something, you know.
yeah, a little bigger
And the
than
whole
what
time
I
talking
weigh.
to him, thinking he was going to wake up, and the other guy talking to him, you know, saying, you know, Garza was saying, "Hey man, what's going on? How you doing?" And you know, I said, "I don't know what's wrong with him." He wouldn't even reply. You know, he wouldn't. Garza wouldn't even reply. So
But he was still blinking and breathing.
yeah, yeah, he was. His functions were working. He just wasn't turning his head. He wasn't rolling his eyes. He wasn't making eye contact with you. I mean, it was as if his stare was blank. His stare was just pure blank. But what I just wanted to tell you before I started moving the vehicle, had he been aware and awake, this is really strange. I only found this out when we went back to Alien. You know, we went back with the Discovery
But the
Plus.
Alien Endgame show,
Yeah,
yeah.
and did that. When we discovered that place on the tips of two people, but I'm going to get to that later because I'd never been there before, nor did I even knew that it existed. But where we were sitting on that road, or we weren't on a road, we were on the back side of Newell Lake Reservoir Dam. And that wall was the back berm of that dam. It was just covered in snow and ice. And I
So
couldn't tell
that's what the
what
white wall was.
the white wall was. But where we were sitting, and this is really important, really wasn't even an access road. I mean, barely. And we only had two-wheel drive vehicles. And mind you, there was quite a bit of snow on the ground everywhere else. I mean, what's quite a bit, maybe 6 to 8 inches, I guess. You know,
Yep.
and of course, this area was there were no tracks on this area. I mean, it was fresh, you know, been put there, and nobody walks in these areas. These are desolate areas, you know.
Right. So the
But
snow was untouched.
yeah, and but where we were in the direct center. If you were to fly a drone and take an aerial picture of the backside of New Lake Reservoir, we were at the center, most deepest part of that whole berm area in the back. In other words, toward the other end, it was shallower as there's less berm needed to hold the water back to the south, and vice versa on the north. You know, but the flue, or I guess the regulation flue on the back side of that dam, was at very north end of it. But what I was trying to get at is outside Michael Johnson's door, had he been aware and awake, and had he opened the door and stepped out and taken 2 steps, he'd have slid right downhill about 30 feet into a great big retention pond that was the overflow from that dam if the dam ever overflowed. So we were kind of on a precipice like this, and then it went down like down away from us with another little pond there. And I never knew any of that until we went back there. So there was no place to turn a vehicle around, and we were facing the only way that we could exit that area. In other words, we didn't
Right.
go in there and turn around, never drove there. He didn't drive there. I didn't drive there. I was on the passenger side and stepped out in mud, which should have.
Right.
Well, how the hell did we
So
get there? With
so
that,
wait. What you're saying is you could not have driven in there.
there's nowhere. Even if you did, there's nowhere to turn around. Not a two-wheel drive
Wow.
vehicle. Yeah,
So
I mean, like
it's
I
almost
said,
as if you were
put
dropped
placed there.
off.
We were placed there. But the continuation of this is, we were escorted back to November Control. And of course, the waiting was the flight chief and the assistant flight chief, facility manager that was on duty is now off duty. So he's got questions. And then you had the missile combat crew that dispatched us. They were above ground now, and their relief was down below. And then you had the off duty, had the all anybody that was on duty during the time this happened was now off duty. And we had people coming from the base that were asking us questions or asking me questions. They immediately helped me get Michael Johnson when I explained to the flight chief his condition out of the vehicle. And they took him inside the launch control facility. And they took him to the back. I think to the facility manager's room. I'm really not sure. So they proceeded to question me. Of course, we turn our weapons in. They stay in an armory on the Pacific.
So
Standard
I would
procedure. I was
I would
never.
like I would like to make the clear difference here between what identified said and
Yeah,
what actually happened.
yeah.
When they located you at New Lake Reservoir near the dam, they
On
did
the
not
backside.
they did not relieve you of your weapons.
No, never.
No. So when you got back to command, that's when.
When we got the November 1, that's a standard procedure to clear your weapon, and I didn't need it any longer, and put it in a weapons rack, and the weapons rack is in the flight security controller's office where all weapons are stored for everybody, not just me or Michael Johnson. We
Okay.
have a clearing barrel, we clear our weapons and we put them in the appropriate place, and they're secured. Now, at time of need, we go right there. We get issued our weapons and we go on our merry way, or do what we have to do. But so anyway, I answered questions for a couple of hours. And Wing Security Control was on the phone, and I don't know what they were saying to the flight chief, but he was asking me all kind of questions. The officers that dispatch us were all asking all types of questions, and everything that I could answer, I would. What I saw, and I kind of drew it. I remember drawing it for one of his
So
captain. Um,
so
but I
you
mean,
were so you were very you were very truthful. You
yeah.
didn't
Now,
you
one
didn't
thing I
hide
did not
anything.
do. No, the only thing that I did not mention was the beings that I saw out that window. Because I mean, I had high question in my mind. What did I just see?
And you
I mean,
probably didn't even know if you actually did see it.
I didn't. I mean, honestly, I didn't, but I thought I did. And something left an impression on me. Something left something burned into my mind that I did. But I did. I would never acknowledge that at that time.
Right.
Because I knew under the personal reliability program and the nuclear program, and I said, "Yeah, man, I saw these little green dudes and this big tall one,
Yep. You're
less than 10
gone.
feet trip that get them and gone."
You
I would
gone.
no questions asked, your clearance pulled in, and
Yep.
who do I have to report to say, oh, they just they took everything away from me? Well, they do that anyway, but they do it in a different way.
Yeah, this is
You're-
also a different time. It's not
Yeah,
like it is today.
back during that time, you had a lot of cattle mutilations going on, and Linda Moulton Howe was investigating them out of Denver, Colorado. She worked for a news company there, like a news station there, and that was a special project that she was working on. And she came into our area, and she was looking for cattle mutilations too, which a friend of mine and we witnessed two at one point up in the Kilo area where two cows had been taken apart, I mean, and dissected and things removed from them. And
Yeah, and
yeah,
I mean, the way that it's done with such precision and
oh,
um,
and
you
I
know,
couldn't look at that and say that, but I do know some of the mouth and gum work was just unbelievable for in the middle of a field,
and there's
on
no blood.
and there's no blood. Yeah,
It's
so
it's
how can you?
insane.
I mean, I use a razor knife and I use all kind of Dremel tools in my radio control car racing program, and I mean, I'm really into this. I've been doing this since '85. And I got friends that are highly sponsored. I've got a few sponsors myself, and I don't race like I want to, but or like I should. but my equipment presents itself as very professional, and sponsors they like that because it shows pride in what you have, and you help other people that are coming along. Kids especially, and every walk of life does this. But anyway, going back to this.
So Linda is
So Linda's
investigating
doing these
cattle.
investigations, of course, and everything's got a place. So I'm going to just go on from that, and I'll come back
Yeah,
to it later.
yeah.
But so anyway, I'm just bannered with questions for the next couple of hours until and Wing Security Control's on the phone, and these officers are on the phone talking, and they're asking me questions. And finally, I just kind of held my hand up and I said, "Hey, can I take a break? I need to go to the restroom." And I needed to gather my thoughts because everything was coming at me so fast, and I got no help from Michael Johnson. And I was worried about him, and I didn't know the guy.
And to your knowledge, was he still catatonic at this point?
Yeah, Yeah, it's the way we came. It's the way we pulled up with him. It's the way I kept drove in there with him. Same way. They had to come out and they got him under the arms and walked him into the building. His legs were moving, and the whole time they're talking to him, I thought, man, he'll snap out of it any time. I mean, literally, he was like that far from just being like you and I are right now, but he just couldn't get there.
Right.
There was something playing in his mind that just,
I wonder what it was like the moment he came to.
yeah, I'd like to know. But I did find that out 2 weeks later. But he didn't tell me all the parameters concerning that. But
Right.
yeah,
And we'll
the
get
more
to
factor
that point.
so they had him in the back room, right? So Matt Sergeant Gray tells me, he goes, well, we're gonna take you to Ellsworth. Now, mind you, a launch control facility has to be manned. You know, there has to be 6 security police officers there at all times,
At all times.
24/7. So we had to wait for us to get relieved, for 2 more men to take our place, even though the flight security controller would remain, but two an air a team leader and a team member had to come and relieve us or take our places. So
Right.
we could stand relieved and we could go in, which is what happened. So once that was done, I rode with the flight chief, Sergeant Gray, and they put Michael Johnson in Sergeant Hawkins' vehicle, and we all drove back to Ellsworth now in tandem. You know, and go down Highway 79 all the way to Sturgis, out to the interstate. I forget the interstate 90, I think, and head back east on 90 all the way to Box Elder, which is where Ellsworth Air Force Base, one of the back entrances are to the SATAP building, Security Police Operations Facility. And when I arrived there, you know, I had my ditty bag and all my stuff and picked it all up and took it in. But I have to back up for a minute. You kind of got me going a little different here. Um, while I was being, asked all these questions, everything I asked, I said, I need to go to the restroom. This is
Oh,
important.
that's right. That's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's important. So they said, yeah, yeah, no worries, Mario. And I've taken some notes, trying to make some mental notes to
Sense.
myself, because I knew this was going to be a long day. And mind you, I'd only been out there one day. We just started work 6 o'clock that evening on my shift, and here it is the next morning. Now it's probably, gosh, 8:30, quarter to nine now, and we were discovered somewhere right around 6:45 or something. So I've been answering questions for this period of time. So I said, "Can I go to the restroom?" Yeah, 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 no worries. And there's people arriving, you know, during this period of time, more people arriving. And then you hear people in the back whispering, or in other areas, they're whispering in the flight security controller's office, in the back in the hallways. Michael Johnson's back there, and I'm in the day room area, and there's probably about 8 or 9 people in there, plus the on duty, security policemen that are there. They're listening to all this. Nothing's classified as of yet. They're just wanting to question you as to what happened, because this is a highly, uh, you know, unordinary happening occurrence. The whole thing of, you didn't go to this sit for, you didn't arrive at, you arrived at the site, but you're found, 5 hours later sitting behind a dam. So I mean, so the curiosities are there and the questions are there. So you got to go through the steps of answering them the best you can. But so I go to the restroom and I go to the side. There's 2 stalls. I go to the one that's closest to the shower. It's just, I don't know. It just was more private there. I guess that was my favorite one. And there's showers there, and there's sinks there, and there's urinals, and then there's toilets, and you have closed doors and all that. So I went in there, and I didn't have to use the restroom. I'm in and I don't have my park on. I've still got my fatigues on, long johns on, my boots, and I'm kind of hot, because we had steam heat there, which was nice. But I sit down on that toilet, just trying to gather my thoughts about what I'd gone through, what I felt, and what I thought I saw, and I'm still not telling that part of it, other than the object, which I call an object. I didn't even call it a craft at that time because I couldn't identify leading edges or thrust systems or wings or insignias or anything. I just call it an object. So as I'm sitting there, all of a sudden I got this flush feeling again that I'd had in the vehicle when I looked out that window, when I had this, I don't know, I've never had that before. Like your whole insides are just aware, or as if your nerve tips are just on fire. hair. I mean, felt like my hair was about to burn, or yeah, on your arm even. I don't, everything. Uh, and my breathing became a little bit erratic, I guess. But all of a sudden, I started getting this feeling that I was leaving my body. I mean, just that's the best way I know to explain it. And I was sinking. I was going from here down through myself into my torso, and I felt, and I knew, I said, okay, I'm going to go out of my feet, is
Oh
what I
my
felt. I was
God.
going to leave my body through my feet. I didn't know if I was dying. I really wasn't sure. I really wasn't sure. I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know why.
Yeah. That,
But I mean, I felt as if I could see from these areas. I don't know if it was energy chakras. I don't know about all that. But I couldn't control it, and I was going. I was leaving, and I knew it.
right, right.
And all of a sudden, you know how you have times when you can focus on
Yeah.
things. All of a sudden, I heard a little tick, 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 or something on the floor, and I just rolled my eyes. I didn't move my head, and I see four fuzzy feet below the vest, before below the door of the
Right.
toilet area, and it was the paws of a dog. It was a German Shepherd drug dog they had sent
Oh
out.
my God.
And behind the dog was were these shiny Cochrane combat boots.
Yeah.
The spit shine. I used to have a couple pair of them, and I went, "Hey, buddy," or something like that. I went, "Hey, man," and this voice who knew me and I didn't know him, he goes, "Hey, Mario, you okay in there?" And I said, "Yeah, man." I said, "I'm all right." I said, "A little shaken." He goes, "Yeah, I understand." I said, "My ditty bag's out there in the day room, my war bag, my hawk bag."
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh, we already checked it. You're good." He said, "I was just coming to check on you. You all right?" And it didn't seem like in the time when I noticed the dog's leg paws feet walking across the floor, is as if I flushed back into my
Into
system.
your body. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was in a sweat then, and I came out of the bathroom, and of course you don't pet a drug dog. I mean, I
Yeah.
wanted to.
You're not allowed to, I believe.
And so I just washed my face with some of that cold water, and I felt better.
Yeah.
And then I had to have some water. Maybe I was dehydrated. It caused me that. I don't know.
I think if I had to guess, I think it was the stress of what just happened. And I mean, later on, not to ruin the story or anything, but later on, you find out things that happened to you
Daisy, no.
during that 6 hours of missing time. I think you were just experiencing, overload on your body.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I
So,
really felt that way. It was more than I could fit mentally uh, handle. I think
yeah.
I don't know how else to say it, but so
And maybe that's what happened to Michael. Maybe
he,
maybe he did leave his body for a while, and or something similar happened to
never
him.
really think about that, but yeah, that could be
Y-
too.
Yeah. So then, so after being questioned and after you leave the bathroom, what happens next?
Well, I came out, and my flight chief said, he goes, Mario, he goes, we're gonna head back to Ellsworth, and I said, okay. He said, Commander wants to talk to you, which was our security police commander, Colonel Spraker, full bird colonel. And he didn't say if there would be anybody else or whatever. He just said Colonel Spraker. I'm sure that's all he was made aware of at the time.
Was
So I
Colonel
grabbed
Spraker the
our security police commander of the Missile Security Squadron.
okay?
I think he's on that certificate for my appointment letter there for NCO. I think it's dated 1 April. Yeah, I sent you a copy of that. You see his signature on the bottom of it, Colonel Spraker. Yeah, Ralph E. Spraker, Colonel. Anyway, so we arrived at the SATAP building and walk into his office, and of course I've got my ditty bag and my stuff I carried with me, and go to his office, and you put your bag down, and I walked into his office, and of course you salute and you report and the whole, I mean, military standard protocol, and he told me at ease and I could sit down, which I did. And within that room, he had, I think it was the assistant base commander. He had two OSI personnel there. One was a captain. Jack Reed was his name, and then another young guy. Uh, but his name was Richard Doty, who I've had contact with here just in the last 2 weeks by an email he sent me. And I've been trying to talk to him for, geez, I guess since about 2014 or so, something like that. And he finally reached out to me and acknowledged that, he remembered the incident. He was there. And he was also placed in charge after the medical examination, which I'll get to carry or to gather and to pick up the medical findings that were done to both of us. At least to me, I know that. I don't know what exactly was done with Michael Johnson. Uh, and then give up to his commanding officer, which would have been Jack Reed, a captain. But
Right.
anyway,
Right.
and there was another gentleman in that room, and he was a tall guy, and he was in a suit. So, but I wasn't introduced to him or told who he was. He was in a suit and he had a hat, like a bolo hat, a hat, a suit hat, whatever you want to call those kind of hats. I don't know. And he never really would make eye contact with me, and I kept looking at him, kind of thinking, well, who is this guy? What have I, because you're made to feel as if you've done something wrong. You didn't
Right.
accomplish something within your mission, so you're being chastised and questioned as to why you didn't do it. Regardless of what the story is, you didn't perform what was supposed to be done. But I will say this: somebody did it. You know, a backup alert team had to do it because it could not go unanswered. So anyway, so for the next 2.5, 3 hours, we sat and we discussed what I saw, what happened to Michael Johnson, where it was located, when did I first see it, just everything that surrounded the entire incident. How did I, I didn't even, I don't think that I said I flashed the facility lights at it. I don't even think I said that, but I could be mistaken because I'm pretty much sure that I told him everything with the exception of what I saw out the window because I knew that would end me. Uh, So after discussion of that and answering any and all questions that they all had to ask me, Colonel Sprecher told me that I was going to be escorted over to the flight surgeon's office where the flight surgeon wanted to take a look at me,
Hmm.
and I agreed to it. I said, "Yes, sir. No worries." And I asked several times about Michael Johnson, but they told me that not don't be concerned about that, that he was fine. So I
So they
do.
reported to you that he was fine and to not worry, and
Yeah,
they wanted you
yeah,
to,
everybody, he's fine.
and
I
they
said,
separated you guys by this
oh,
point.
immediately. I mean, at the missile, back at November 1, he went with the assistant flight chief, and I went with the flight chief. Separate vehicles. So I don't know where he wasn't at the SATAP building when I was there. In other words, so I guess they took him straight to medical because he was non-responsive. I don't know if he responded to Sergeant Hawkins during the ride or he came to. I don't know anything about that. He never told me that he did. I don't know how he came to grips with it. Uh, but I'll go on to that. But so there I go they take me over to the medical center to the flight surgeon's office, and uh, there's two doctors and a nurse, and then the OSI guys came. But now they were not in the room per se. They were like on the other side of this glass, like one of those wavy kind of glasses you can't quite see through. That
Yeah,
old,
like the two-way mirrors.
that old dark gray looking stuff. They're on the other side of that, and
Wow.
they can see over the top of it. It's not a completely closed off wall. They can see it. They're just on the other side, and I'm over here. And of course, I was sitting on like one of those bed
How
things.
did that make you feel that you were in this situation?
Oh man, it was just all coming at me so fast. I didn't know.
Because all
Again,
of a
you're
sudden,
made to feel as if you've done something
right
wrong,
now,
and
for all
you're
in
being
for
prosecuted for it. I mean, so you're trying to do the best you can to get the least amount of punishment for whatever you think you're going to be punished for. and I didn't know what that would be because I'd never been in any kind of trouble since I've been or anything, you know. I was, still a senior airman, so I
Yeah,
wasn't
and
doing
and
anything else. And
you
I
know,
didn't,
for
this was my livelihood, and I didn't want to lose that because, you hear stories every day of guys doing stupid stuff, and all of a sudden they're booted out. Well,
mm-hmm,
you don't
mm-hmm,
want to get booted out of anywhere in the middle of 30, 40 below zero, whether it's in the state of South Dakota, and not have a way or a means to do anything else, and especially support a family, or someone.
right,
Can't support yourself, let alone somebody else in that situation.
right, right,
But
right.
anyway, that didn't happen. That didn't come to that. But anyway, so the doctor examined me: ears, nose, eyes, throat, joints. Looked me over really well. He had on I guess he had on his vinyl gloves, and he kept lifting up my lip and looking at my gums. And I don't know what that was, why. I never had cavities or anything. I had really good teeth all my life, but he kept doing that, and he was pressing hard on my gums, and I mean, he just wasn't doing right here. He would go, way back here and stuff into my jaw area. He kept pressing in my inside and outside. I was, I was like, what the hell is this?
Right, right,
And
right.
so anyway, and when he concluded, and there was two doctors, and when he concluded, he popped his gloves off and he goes, the other doctor said, he goes, Senior Woods, he says, I need to take a couple skin samples. And I went, what?
What?
He goes, I need to take a couple of skin samples. I said, what do you mean? He goes, this guy, he didn't have gloves on, and he pointed up here to my forehead and over my right eye. He goes, well, you've got burns up here on your forehead. I said, oh. And he goes, and the back of your hand. And I looked at that, and I've had, like I've said before, I have had sunburn, living in Tampa and going to Clearwater Beach and, falling asleep on the beach and getting burned
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
you know. But this, I could feel it. And, when you live in those northern tier areas, you kind of lose a pigment of skin or pigmentation in your skin that allows, I guess, burn easier.
Right.
And anyway, I said, oh, okay. I didn't know. I'm thinking I'm in trouble. I'm trying to get out of trouble. Sure, whatever you want. You want a finger? You want some blood? What? I'm just trying to get out of trouble. I want out
My
of here.
social security, whatever you
Yeah,
need, sir.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, they take a little skin. He takes a little skin sample above my right eye up here, and places one of them small little band-aids on it, and then he takes two up the back of my hand, kind of like one over in this area in front of my wrist, and one over the back of this middle knuckle here. And just small little nips, and they separated them in different vials, and they had corks or whatever you call them, rubber stoppers or corks. I don't
Yeah.
remember. Anyway, he laid them on a little stainless tray, and after that, they did do the eye thing too, look at my eyes, and that kind of thing with his fingers and the light. And
Yeah.
he said, "Well, Mr. Woods," he said, "we're going. I guess they're going to escort you back over to Colonel Spraker's office." I said, "Yes, sir." So I got dressed, and I asked about Michael Johnson, but I wasn't told anything of his
So
condition. Or anything.
by this time, you had probably asked about Michael Johnson
10 times, 10, 15
10
times. Yeah.
upwards of 10 times
Oh, easily.
to no
Yeah.
answer.
So no answer, right? No answer at all. And it really bothered me because I was really concerned about him, and I
Right.
didn't know I didn't know him, but I was really concerned about it. I
You
know how I
guys went
felt.
through this ordeal together.
Yeah, yeah,
You were there together.
yeah, and I
And
didn't know anything about him, other than the fact, he had told me he was from Chicago, Illinois. His parents lived there. That was his home address.